Hey friends, we have a birthday party to plan. So from start to finish, I recorded everything we did for the meal and the desserts. So I will show you now and I hope you enjoy. Hello friends, we have a birthday party to prepare for. So this is cookies here that we're starting with 2 days prior. We're gonna do peas, cornbread, stir-fried queso, mashed taters, fresh loaf of bread, cookies, 2 cakes, and fudge. And the cookies are coming along great. I ran out of brown sugar here, and there's the ingredients on the screen for you. So I added a bit of molasses because brown sugar is just sugar and molasses. And the eggs are room temperature here. We're going to put those eggs in. This is my own cookie recipe, so I cream the sugar and butter first, and then I add the eggs in, and then we start adding the dry ingredients as needed. I probably should have done the sugar and butter this a little longer before adding the eggs, but I think I might have been in a hurry at this point. So a good way to get a good, dense, chewy cookie is to add more egg yolks than egg whites, to use brown sugar instead of white sugar, and to use cornstarch, and that gives you that perfect dense cookie. So we're putting all that in here. I don't worry about mixing the dry ingredients separately first. I just add them in as I get them scooped out into the measuring container. Scrape this down, give it one more little mix. The first batch I made on this day, I didn't record. It was butterscotch and chocolate chips, and they're so freaking good. And then I made a second batch. Yep, see right there? Perfect, dense, chewy. I made a second batch with just chocolate chip because I ran out of butterscotch, unfortunately. So these are flash frozen, and now that they're frozen, they're going to go into a freezer bag and go back into the freezer so we can bake them on the day of the party. And here's the batch we made together. And another good way to get a nice chewy cookie on the inside is to roll it up in sort of a cylinder and kind of make it like oval-like and kind of like real thick. And then it'll bake down and spread. And then slap it on the stove, kind of flattens it out. And these turn out great as well. I think I should have added a little bit more molasses though, and I should have just had more brown sugar ready is what I should have done. But they were still good. And the next recipe, we need brown sugar, so I stop and make some because I don't want to just eyeball molasses in there like I did for those cookies. So that's all you do for brown sugar is you just add molasses in until you feel like it's enough. If you want it to be light brown sugar or dark brown sugar like you buy from the store, I just throw it in there until it feels right. And we have our beautiful brown sugar here. So I tried to think of the things that birthday boy loves, some of his favorite things. So I read off everything that we're making for him, and they don't go together. Stir fry and mashed potatoes don't go with queso, and you know, it's just all different kinds of things that he loves. Even though they don't go together, I don't care. I just wanted this to be a special meal for him and all the family that comes over to spend the day with us. I don't have parchment paper that's already cut out in the shape of a circle, so I'll just cut it out myself. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it fits good enough. And the spray I have doesn't spray in a mist. You know, avocado oil spray usually comes out in a stream instead of a mist. So I'm like, I'll just use a brush and some oil and just get it all over the edges here. That way the cakes don't stick at all. And they don't. It was perfect. The first one we're starting with here is the carrot cake. So this is also 2 days prior. The cookies can go in the freezer. There's the ingredients on the screen for you. And the cakes can be wrapped up in saran wrap and frozen as well. And then whenever you want to frost your cakes, if you try to frost them while they're frozen, you can keep from getting a bunch of crumbs in the frosting. Have you ever tried to put frosting on and a bunch of crumbs come up and get stuck in the frosting? Yeah, so if it's frozen, it doesn't do that. Add some of our freshly made brown sugar. For this recipe, we mix the dry and wet separately, and the sugar goes in with the wet. and we add the dry to the wet once it's mixed up. We have a party participant that does not want carrots in her cake, so I'm going to make her individual cupcakes instead. That's why I got those silicone liners out. So just rinse off our shredded carrots. Start adding in our eggs, room temperature eggs that I put in the sink in warm water to make them room temperature because, of course, I didn't remember to have them out sooner. And we still need to clean the floors. As you can see on the floor over there, on the edges, all the way around is brown. The robot vacuum does not get the edges very well, especially on a muddy day. The dogs bring in a lot of mud. So we're gonna do that as well. Not on camera though. I mean, I did record it, but it didn't make the cut. So gotta do all this cooking first before I can spend time cleaning. So before we add the carrots in, we need to put these in the cupcake liners. And it's kind of like a spiced cake instead of carrot cake. Carrot cake is basically just a spiced cake with carrots, so these will be spiced cupcakes. And here's where I already forgot to add the carrots in. So the 10 seconds it took to put the batter into the cupcake liners there, I'd already forgotten about the carrots. And I do figure it out before we put them in the oven, but all the times I look over and see them in the sink, it doesn't cross my mind like, oh, those are supposed to go in the batter. So here's the carrots. I'm just pushing them in, give it a little bit of a mix, and it actually turns out great. Even though I'm mixing a little bit, I was worried about the oil getting mixed in and separated from the edges and then they would stick or the carrots would burn or that I added too many carrots. And no to all that. These cakes turned out awesome. Like, they were so good. I can't even describe how good this was. I love cream cheese frosting, so it all went together so well. So don't worry if you forget to add your zucchini to your zucchini bread or your carrots to your carrot cake. You can add it in before you bake it, and it'll still be okay. While those are baking, we're going to prepare the next cake. And yeah, I am doing a lot of desserts. I do a whole lot of food. We had a few people over and a whole lot of leftovers, and I got to send food home with people, so that was nice. That was the ingredients for the German chocolate cake on the screen. And this one is a little different. This one is where you mix the wet and the dry separate, but the sugar goes in with the dry ingredients instead of the wet ingredients. Unless I read it wrong, but that's how I made it, and it turned out great, so that's how we're making it right now. My baking powder is a little clumpy, so I'm just smashing it in my hand to kind of unclump it. So we'll do the dry in the mixer and the wet in the bowl this time, and then we add the wet to the dry. It's a little bit different, and I kind of liked it a lot better because, you know, when you add dry to wet and you get that powder, the like fog of powder that comes out of the mixer, well, you don't get that when you add the wet to the dry, so that was nice. This is sour cream. It's a little runny because I made it myself. Usually comes out thicker, so that just means I either didn't let it stay warm long enough or I didn't add enough probiotic yogurt. It's just heavy cream and probiotic yogurt. And then you put it in a warm spot for 8 to 12 hours and then you stick it in the fridge. And that's how you make homemade sour cream. Carrot cakes turned out perfect. They're done. I did a little bit of a cleanup. I needed the pans to cool. So before I mixed the wet and the dry here, I needed them to cool and the cakes to be able to come out because I need to use those cake pans because I only have 3 and I need to use all 3 of mine for the German chocolate cake. So cleaned up the kitchen a bit, then I mixed up the cake ingredients, got these out of the pan and cleaned them up, and we will pour our cake filling in just a sec. And an optional ingredient was espresso. I just made a super strong little bit of coffee there. I'm drinking coffee right now, by the way. I like it black. It's good. So at this point, I've already done cookies and 2 cakes, or working on the second cake, and I'm like, I don't care. I'll just use my hands to oil the pans. Oh well. The brush was in the dishwasher anyways, and I have another one, I just didn't want to dig it out. So we'll try to divide these up as evenly as possible, and we'll bake them as well. And turn out amazing. And these came out of the pans perfectly. They didn't stick. And I was just so proud of them. You see that brown coloring on there? It's like the glazy, kind of gooey crunch you get from the brown sugar, where it was just so freaking good. I love carrot cake. Pretty sure I already said that, and I'm sure you can tell because I just keep talking about how good it was. So now we're wrapping them in saran wrap, and they're gonna go in the freezer. And then when they thaw out just as fresh as if you had just baked them. They're soft and moist. If you like refrigerate stuff or keep stuff out at room temperature, it kind of loses that like moistness, or it gets too moist if you know what I mean. Anyways, they were perfect, kept thawing out. Okay, this is the day of the party. That was all the ground beef we needed to prepare for the separate meals. I'm going through all the potatoes and picking out the ones I want to plant. These are organic potatoes. And once I picked out the ones I want, which were ones that had really good eyes starting and were big potatoes, and the rest I peel. Draining the meat here. A lot of grease there we got to drain off. And I rinsed the potatoes by just filling that pot with water and letting them sit so they wouldn't brown. This is water in the 2 pans here. I'm scraping off the brown bits. The brown bits is flavor that we're going to add to our stir fry later. And so I thought it would be better than just adding water. It would be adding some flavor. We're going to put some ground beef back in the skillet because we are going to use our taco seasoning. McCormick's recipe is so good. I love it. And we are going to make our taco seasoning. And that was the ingredients on the screen for you. All the recipes will be in the description as well, like links to them. And then I'll type up my cookie recipe because there's no link for that. It's my own creation. Through trial and error and trying different things and different whatevers. I use a lot of butter in mine, and I just like the way they come out, like not quite greasy, but just, I don't know, I just love them. All right, we're gonna get those potatoes put in the pantry and out of the way. And we got quite a bit of grease out of all that meat. So the taco meat's just finishing up. Here, take a bite. Just kidding. It's good. I added a little bit of meat to it because it was pretty strong. Like, I don't think I had enough meat in there in the first place, so the seasoning was strong. And I ended up having enough to put in the queso and enough to throw in that dish and stick in the fridge. And we had tacos a different night. So I meal prepped on accident. Worked out really well. So just cutting up the potatoes in random chunks. Give them another rinse. Dump out that dirty water and put fresh water in so we can boil them. And that's kind of like a 4th rinse for the potatoes. So I'm pretty sure they're clean. The sink water looks pretty clean actually. And we'll just let those boil for a while. A big pot, a whole lot of potatoes, they gotta boil for a while. So here's our list now, and the red is what we've completed so far. And we're gonna have fresh bread that we're gonna make together here in a sec. So we gotta have room temperature butter. I don't like that spreadable fake stuff, that margarine. We're gonna use real butter, and it's gonna be good. And I got that Pioneer Woman butter dish, I think it's pretty. So this is my own bread recipe as well. And it's kind of an eyeball situation, so I don't have measurements for you. But it's basically a cup of water, sometimes a cup and a half more like, and then like 3/4 a stick of butter melted, a whole bunch of salt, whole bunch of sugar, and then 3 cups of bread flour. I don't spoon in the bread flour, and then it's like a teaspoon and a half of yeast. And then the bread machine setting is set and it does it for me. Mixes, kneads, proofs, and bakes all in one. Anyways, I don't bother spooning the flour in because I just know that with the extra water I add to my recipe, I know that it'll be perfect without having to spoon the flour into the cups. You know what I mean? I like to help it along by scraping the edges down as well. Got to prepare our stir fry. 3 cups of rice. I should have done 2 cups, but you never really know how it's going to turn out until it's too late. So 2 cups of rice would have been better with the amount of onion and pepper and meat that was in there. But anyways, it was good either way. So that was garden onions, garden bell peppers, and garlic powder also from the garden. Now we're doing the chocolate buttercream for the German chocolate cake, and that's the ingredients there for you. I am making a mess, but I have not cleaned the floors at this point. So I will before people arrive, and so whatever mess I make doesn't really matter. It's okay. Make a mess, it's fine. I'm one person making all this food by myself, and if I get in a hurry and make a mess, so be it. It happens. It's coming along good. It was so good. You could probably make it. We also make the frosting for the carrot cake. You could probably do the same thing and then just add cocoa powder to that. This one had that heavy cream in it, and I don't know. That might have been the only main difference. Or the cream cheese is different too. Chocolate cream cheese frosting? I don't know. It could work. The coconut filling. Put it on the stove here. And then once it's melted, we have to actually stand there and stir for a full 5 minutes. So I'm letting it melt real quick, and then I'll start stirring for 5 minutes straight. And this is the queso. We're getting started. Just getting the cheese in there. Coconut pie filling, or pecan pie filling. I don't do pecans. I forgot to record adding the coconut, but there it was. It was done. Now we got to make our cream cheese frosting for the carrot cake. And things start to get a little hectic because not quite behind on time, but getting close to being behind. I didn't get a chance to change my clothes, do my hair or makeup or anything. There's ingredients for the cream cheese frosting there. I'm just trying to hurry and get things prepared because, not everything you can do a day or two before. Some things are best done the day of. And anywho, it got busy. While that's whipping for 2 minutes or so in the mixer, if I remember correctly, we're going to start preparing the fudge. And while I could have made less food, that way it was less hectic, I was trying to get one. Evan loves the fudge. Evan wasn't the birthday boy, but I wanted to go ahead and make the fudge because I wanted everybody to enjoy some fudge. And it's super easy and super quick, like it's not a big deal. And yeah, I could have made one less cake or one less side dish, but I was trying to get all the things I could think of that I know the birthday boy loves. So that's why I'm doing so much. It was part of my gift. So we did a double batch of the fudge. So half will go in one dish, another half will go in another dish, because one of the dishes are going to have walnuts in it, and one of the party participants has a walnut allergy. So that's why, or a nut allergy in general. So that's why we didn't do carrots in that one cupcake. She just doesn't like them. But then we don't do pecan in the other cake, and we don't do walnuts on some of the fudge because she has an allergy. So we just got to tweak things a little bit to accommodate. Potatoes were drained in the sink, just letting them sit there. We did salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and the broth and some water, and with the rice, and it's all in one pot, and you just let it cook until the rice is done. We washed out that bowl to start mashing the potatoes. I love that the KitchenAid will just do it for me, basically. And this will be a whole bunch of butter, heavy whipping cream, salt, pepper, and a bunch of garlic powder. Garlic with them mashed taters is just so good. I love it. And we made so much that we had to do 2 rounds in the stand mixer. Get that mixed up real good. Let's go through our checklist and see what we've done. Making good progress. I want everything to be hot and ready at the same time, but getting myself ready while everything else is hot and ready just doesn't work out. So, anyways, I had stuff all over my shirt and everything. It was okay. The kitchen didn't get cleaned either until everybody left. But that's fine. We're doing cornbread now. I'll stop talking about that. So cornbread, I usually like to do the wet ingredients first, but I was not thinking at this point. Sour cream is a secret ingredient to making your cornbread super fluffy. So I would usually do milk, eyeball in the milk, 1 egg per box of Jiffy. We took the easy way out and did some Jiffy. And then sour cream. And mix that up and then add the cornbread mix. And then you let it rest for 10 minutes. And I like to get it liquidier than it's like supposed to be, because once you let it rest, which is another important thing to do with your cornbread, it ends up being thick, fluffy, and perfect. Anyways, cast iron skillet went into the oven with oil because cast iron cornbread is amazing. And I know I'm behind here, but the queso is also on the stove getting warmed up with a little bit of milk in it. And we are putting the coconut filling between the layers of chocolate cake. I did not read all of the instructions. I planned on reading the second half of the instructions at some point, but it didn't happen because I was like trying to hurry. So I'm like, I don't know how this is supposed to go, but it'll taste fine. And I just put coconut between the layers, and I don't even know, I never went back and looked to see if I was supposed to put frosting in between the layers as well. It didn't look like I'd have enough to do that, but turned out good. And that was the cake. That was all done. We're just giving the queso a little bit of a mix and putting our perfectly thick and fluffy cornbread batter that has rested for 10 minutes into the corn muffin. Some people like the corn muffin, some people like the cast iron cornbread. So we did both. Whatever was left over after making a dozen muffins is what's going to go in that cast iron. And 3 or 4 boxes usually ends up being a good amount. Last thing in the queso needs to be rotel. So our Velveeta, our taco meat, milk, and rotel. And boom, you have queso. Here's our carrot cake and our beautiful cream cheese frosting. So we just add a thick layer, put on the other layer of carrot cake, and do the same thing. So I planned on making little strips of parchment paper and putting it around the edges underneath the bottom layer of cake. And then when you're done with the frosting, you slide the parchment paper pieces out and you have a clean, you see where I'm wiping here? You have a clean plate or whatever you put it on. I ran out of time, so I didn't do that. Here is the spiel. Look at everything. That's our drinks, desserts. The dinner was right before this. It all turned out amazing. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye.